Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the Advanced Racing Development 165K, the pit race of the fall season for the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeats. Live tonight from Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina. James Pike here, the voice of Podium Esports, alongside Justin Prince, Mickey Springer, and our producer Ryan Bauer, powered by Top Flight Computers. We welcome you whether or not you're watching along on Twitch, on YouTube, or Trovo, or Twitter. We're going to take you straight to the starting grid. They're already on the line. JP Tucker Minter is your pole sitter with a qualifying time of 23.367 seconds to take the time spot. Jared Ickes will start from second. Third will be Nick Indelicato. Justin Brown begins tonight from fourth. Fifth will be Nicholas Short. Yusuf Gali starts sixth. Seventh will be Alec Martinez. Jose Solis Jr. rolls off from eighth. Ninth will be Dylan Mason. And 10th, Blaze McKinney in the 77.
11th spot, Briar Proud with Anthony Burrows, your points leader, entering tonight in 12th position at 27.479 in qualifying. Michael Finlinson starts in 13th with Blake McCandless in the show in 14th. Colton Stalick starts in 15th. Presley Soares in 16th. Lucas Cram in 17th, and in 18th spot in his first start of the season, Anthony Alfredo with a 27.517 in qualifying. Rounding out your top 20, Alex Bell deep in the field in 19th with Brett Gardner alongside James.
21st will be Colton Zimmer. Caden Aitkins will start from 22nd. 23rd will be Jimmy Mullis, defending champion of the ERL, with Nick Miller starting in 24th. 25th will be Braxton DeWeese. Chris Rabel starts in 26th. 27th will be Robert Hanrana. Evan Rice rolls off this evening from 28th. 29th will be Ray Rabideau, and Garrison Hogan will roll off.
31st spot, Connor Horn, the first driver not to put in time. Matt Danson deep in the field, 32nd. Nathan Lyons starting deep in the field as well from 33rd. Our gateway winner with Adam de Blasio in 34th. Kendrick Rosales, Majet Wells, and Drake round out your 39 cars who have made it to the jump.
We take a look at the track facts here. This is, of course, Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina. A 1.366 mile, 2.20 kilometer circuit that opened in 1950. 25 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2. 23 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4. 3 degrees of banking on the front stretch. 2 degrees of banking on the back stretch. We race in sim. Default day for iRacing, May 15th, 2020. It's just after 4 o'clock Eastern local time. Tonight we go for 75 laps, just under 103 miles and 165 kilometers. And I didn't get the chance to hit on it before the race, but it is Darlington week, so we will see some throwbacks this evening, and we're going to try and roll through as many of them as we can, as many of them as we can note over the course of the evening. But glad to have you with us as Podium Esports presents coverage of the ERL from the Lady in Black, a track too tough to tame, Darlington Raceway. And we get set to go green flag racing with Tucker Minter getting ready to lead us to green. Fifth in points as we start this evening as Minter takes off with Jared Ickes, and we're underway in South Carolina. And they will go side by side off into 1 and 2, and up towards the wall they'll go. It's a weird line that you take here, JP. You sort of roll up to the fence in the middle of the corner and then come back down to make sure you don't get yourself pinched off in turn 2.
And it's so easy on that same start to try and just about tap the safer barrier and damage a race car. A couple drivers have already done that. A couple drivers in trouble in the back of the field. Caution is out. Mullis involved. Well, that started quickly, to say the very least, tonight.
Interesting one there is Anthony Alfredo. Got a little bit of help, it looks like, from the 55 of Brett Gardner. Those two went arounds, and looks like Gardner just got a better run off of the corner than Alfredo did. Alfredo goes sideways. Jimmy Mullis has nowhere to go. He's hard into the fence. Alfredo into the wall. Mullis managed to stay on sideways, but everybody else okay for the most part. But two big names in trouble early, JP.
And we were talking about this just before we got on air, James, where if you... Turn 2 is expected to be a trouble spot because it's a tighter corner exit and the wall jumps out at you. That time, Alfredo, I think, got a little bit of help trying to avoid the wall as well, checking up off the gas, and in turn, just a massive stack up, and Mullis getting the very, very worst of it. Here's a look up from up top to see the 55 was behind. Yes, the 55 gave him some help.
Yeah, and just with that little bit of help there, coming off the corner, especially the way that this track is banked and how much speed you're really carrying. You know, we spoke before the race and before the broadcast started about how fast these drivers are going around this track and just how quick things can happen here. And just one little off the throttle there and the 55 gets into the back of them, and that could be trouble. Jimmy Mullis, of course, nowhere to go on the bottom of the track. It being so banked, just comes right down, and that's just a product of the Lady in Black here, is that when a wreck happens, everybody just kind of forces down to the bottom of the track, and there's really nowhere to go for those guys on the bottom.
It's a tough one, I think, just because this apron is so big and the actual racing line is so small. It's a weird quirk of Darlington, but you've got width on the pavement for about 5 or 6 cars, but when it comes down to it, you really have maybe about 2 grooves that you're working with in the actual racing line, JP, and that makes this a very difficult place to get around.
It can be very difficult to pass, absolutely, and that in turn means you need to be good at 2 things: tire saving and be able to carry momentum off the corner. Because if you eat up your tires, you're going to have to get off the gas and you're going to make some mistakes as a result as your car gets tight. Because as these tires wear, you are expected to get tight here in Darlington. But the second point, if you can carry strong momentum off the corner and be able to get to someone's inside, specifically 1 and 2, 9 times out of 10, that car on the outside is going to back off and give you the spot. So if you can force that, you can try and make passes tonight and in turn the different lines. Expecting a lot of single file in this part of the speedway. The other half, you can get away with 2 wide. Specifically, some drivers like to run out the way to the white line just about, as seen like drivers like Zach Novak is a good example. Here at Darlington 3 and 4, others just like to rim ride right next to the wall.
Some people will sit on the wall, some people will run the apron. In either case, though, remind you that tonight's broadcast of the Esports Racing League is brought to you by SimSeats. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality driving simulators, including motion systems, custom fabricated parts, and complete turnkey iRacing packages, all made in the United States of America. Their customer base includes all kinds of drivers, from amateurs to professionals. Their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Don't limit your track time to the weekend. Visit www.sim-seats.com for more information. Get set for the restart here momentarily as the lights will go off our pace truck, and Tucker Minter will lead the field to green ahead of Jared Ickes and Nick Indelicato.
And it looks like Alfredo going to at least lose a lap trying to get some of the damage repaired. And keep in mind, with this being essentially a cheese grater in terms of tire wear, drivers are expected to make a lot of pit stops tonight. Even 5 laps on a green flag run. We'll likely see drivers think about coming in because they have a lot of tire sets. 3 in the pits tonight, 4 total at their disposal in case things do get interesting in terms of long runs and the amount of fall-off. It's expected to have a ton of fall-off on the racetrack tonight, James. Though that's going to be, like we mentioned, important, and in turn, when you use those tire sets, could also be vital tonight.
It's a very particular characteristic of these tracks in the coastal plains and sandhills in North and South Carolina. Rockingham Speedway, also a bit of a cheese grater on tires, just with the way the sand whips around. It grinds the asphalt down over time as the track just sits here most of the year. So definitely something that you'll have to be mindful of as we wait for the restart to come. Minter back on the gas and a good jump here ahead of Jared Ickes. Nick Indelicato up there and Nick Short up there too. Indelicato there, I think, is worth it. It's the first throwback paint scheme that I see up at the front end of this field, Ricky Springer. That a nod to Kyle Busch's rookie paint scheme that he ran in what was then the NASCAR Busch Series back in 2004, the CarQuest car for Hendrick Motorsports. Red, white, and blue, just like you see that number 16 tonight.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things that you like to see at Darlington here is all these guys running different paint schemes, different than what they would usually run. We see a lot of modern paint schemes on these cars, stuff with flashy graphics, colors. We see chrome on a lot of these cars, especially since iRacing came out with the spec maps just a few months ago. So a lot of these drivers, it's nice to go back to the basics, and it's nice to go back to simplistic schemes and the throwbacks to kind of pay homage to what the people that they watched growing up used to run on their cars.
We'll highlight a few more of the throwbacks over the course of the evening, but for now, we'll keep our eyes focused on this battle for the race lead and keep our eyes focused on the battle a little bit further back as you ride on board there with, I believe that might be the number 33 machine. We'll take a good look and see how things are going for everybody in this field, but that's Nick Short that you sit on board with just behind Jared Ickes.
Yeah, and you can see things just single filing out. The top three have ran away, in part because everyone's just fighting side by side. Solus Jr. now has some damage already from tapping the wall. And the more you run side by side here, too, the more time you lose. 1 second lost by this group already, just because that fight between Indalcano, Solus Jr., along with Yusuf Ghali, who's also trying to make some moves now for spots to get inside the top 4.
Big moves there as they continue to shuffle around Darlington, and a big move there for Yusuf Ghali, who jumps right in front of Indalcano and takes over the position. So good moves there for Ghali to jump up front, and Alec Martinez in the mix there. You got a whole bunch of cars that are sort of mixed right back there. Blake McCandless, Michael Fenless in the mix there. Nick Olson's part of that bunch too, or Lucas Graham rather, teammate of Grip Motorsports, and a few more cars trying to fight their way up towards the front in short order.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we could see, especially if this race does decide to go long here and we start getting into those long runs there, is maybe a tire strategy. We saw Monday night in Sim 500 some guys take 2 tires, pass all these guys on the track on pit road, and then stay up front for quite a few laps. And with what we heard from the drivers after that race of how difficult it can be to pass here, especially with the corners tightening up, and almost if you think about it, you're wider in the corners than you are in the straightaways. So unlike a lot of tracks, the passing opportunities are going to have to come down the front straightaway and down the back straightaway, as a wreck is happening on the front straightaway, a car hard into the inside wall.
Colton Salek is the one who went around off of turn 4, and it will bring out the second yellow flag of the evening. We'll take a look momentarily to see what happened, but he was immediately on the radio, and I suspect that his words were less than friendly, JP.
Yeah, coming off turn 4, and that's where, again, things get tight with you coming off the exit. All the way from the Ireland Speedway. This grouping was already side by side, a couple rows deep. Salek was gaining some momentum as the 08 was starting to drop back a little bit, even on that top line. But right off the corner exit, a little bit of a drift down for the 08, a drift up slightly for Salek. Off and away goes Salek into the inside wall as he ricochets back onto the racing surface to bring out the caution.
They were crossing paths over one another, and that more often than not does not work at Darlington, although it's usually turn 2 that we see these sorts of incidents, not necessarily turn 4. Turn 4's got a little bit of a wider apex and corner exit than 2. 2 is notorious for being a bit of a funnel in which 2 lanes go down to 1. So maybe a bit of a surprise that we see this over in turn 4 first before we get to turn 2. But we'll probably see it in both spots tonight. I don't think there's any denying that, as the rest of the field will come down pit road for service, and Tucker Minter will lead the field down into their stalls.
Yeah, we're just going to see these guys come down this long pit road. One of the most treacherous things about this pit road here is pit entry. It gets really tight, and these guys all have to funnel down pit road. So driving too wide on the pit entry is going to be very difficult for these guys, especially if you're just trying to gain a couple of tenths on pit road entry, because that could be the difference between coming out in 10th place and then coming out inside the top 5. So we'll have to take a look at that all night long of just what these guys are going to do. But it seems like we may have 1 or 2 cars staying out on the racetrack, Pike.
A few more than just 1 or 2 cars, as Tucker Minter is going to get beat off of pit road by Dylan Basin, who took 2 tires to win the battle off of pit road. The problem is that he is going to start no higher than 10th, because we had 9 cars stay out in this race. Jose Solis Jr., Anthony Burrows, Lucas Cram, Alex Bell, Connor Horn, Nick Miller, Matt Danson, and Ryan Kendrick. So a few famous names in there. And it gives us the opportunity to remind you all that tonight's broadcast of the Esports Racing League is brought to us by our premier partners for tonight's race, Advanced Racing Development. Advanced Racing Development is a manufacturing business located in New Jersey. Our services include the design, engineering, prototyping, and fabrication of sim rig equipment. Adapters for wheels in particular are their specialty. We have the knowledge and equipment to offer quality, affordable products. And more information and an opportunity to see everything that is available and everything they have in their engineered sim racing and performance racing product lines. Visit www.advanced-racing.com. Malachi Drake, Dylan Basin taking 2 tires. Jose Solis, your leader. And I think we have to throw a nod to the number 29 of Anthony Burrows. Comes into tonight as the points leader, but also throwing back to the net zero car back from 2002, 2003, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. First, a Pontiac before, or actually, I believe a Chevrolet before it became a Pontiac in 2003 with Jack Sprague behind the wheel, champion of the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series on, I believe, 2 different occasions, JP, in 1999 and 2000. I might be missing one, but I know he at least has those 2.
Yeah, a lot of success seen from Sprague in the Truck Series. And, of course, if you remember back, drivers like Jason Leff were in that season once things got interesting, so to speak, ran in that car. I believe Ward Burden ran a variation of that the next year when they moved over to Chevrolet in 2004-ish. For the most part, though, it's a memorable scheme, and that's what a lot of paint schemes, I think, want to aim for with a throwback, is being able to be authentic with the throwback, but also memorable, and that it's memorable to where people will remember it for a long, long time. And that's what has to be the goal if you want to try and go this route of a throwback.
You are right that Jeff Burton did also run a paint scheme like that. We've also got a few more good stories in this field to tell. And while we're under yellow, we've got the time to do it. I think in particular, we got word of what Matt Danson is running. And Matt Danson has a very fantastic scheme. For those who are unaware, Matt is based out of Australia and racing live from down under in the ERL. And Matt went with a little bit more local flavor for his throwback. For those who are unaware, the largest series in form of motorsport down in Australia would be the Australian Supercars. And their arguably greatest driver of all time is the late Peter Brock. And Danson's scheme is a throwback to the very first Bathurst 1000 that Peter Brock won back in 1972. Also the last time that anyone won the Bathurst 1000 on their own, driving the race entirely by themselves. It was the year after that they moved to the 2-driver system that has maintained to this day. But Brock, an absolute legend of the mountain and of the great race, as it's known down there. So much so that the trophy that goes to the winner of the Bathurst 1000 is named after Peter Brock. So he's got a few successes across the board in Australian supercars, and plenty of work that everybody should pay respect to. One of the greats down in Australia, and a very cool throwback, I think, for Matt Danson this evening. So keep an eye on that number 30 for the Horizon Racing team. That black, red, and white will stand out anywhere you look at it. But as it stands, we'll go back to green flag racing on lap 18 of 75. It's Jose Solis Jr. who will lead the field to green. And the top 9 are all on old tires, Ricky Springer. So this could be very fun going off into 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah, we're going to see a great restart here. A lot of guys slipping and sliding around, maybe. We'll have to see as we take the green flag in that 75 car, putting the rest of the field in the dust by 3 to 4 car lengths now as he enters off into turn 1. And a great feeling when you can go off into turn 1 as the leader and have nobody on your inside, nobody on the outside, and just plain old run your line and not have to worry about it. But now Anthony Burrows running down the 75 down the back straightaway. We're going to see that all night as well, that run off the top. It's really who can ever get as close to the outside wall there, and that's why so many people get the Darlington stripe here, because you want to get so close there that you can get a good run down the front straightaway.
You really do have to push on. First battle, though, side by side. You slide a little bit further back. You've got Alex Bell, Dylan Basin in the mix, the 33 of Nick Short going up top. Danson that we just talked about there. And also need to give an nod to Alex Bell, who I believe Justin Prince has a Paul Menard throwback back from Menard stays at DEI in the mix.
Yeah, nice looking car tonight, but is already getting freight train on the bottom line. But the race lead is now side by side going into 1 and 2. We talked about forcing a liftoff point. Drivers are getting towards that mark as several or more are in the wall.
A lot of them already bouncing off each other in a big wreck over in 1 and 2 as they bounce across the track and go sideways. Everybody spinning and crashing out of turn 2. Nowhere there for the 37 machine to go or the 8 to go. So Adam de Blasio and Braxton DeWeese just caught in this ever so slightly. But the multiple incidents through 1 and 2 that we will have to review, JP, and figure out what exactly took place.
Well, it was a busy past couple laps because you had the 09 not get off to a good start. You had the 19, Brian LaPrade bumped to the apron. You had the 16 with the problem squeezed the back of the field. And then you had this, where Danson we've seen slide up the racetrack. That stacked them up. Here's the look from the start of the back straightaway in this grouping. Starts a little bit, a few car lengths up the road. Some of the drivers you see, like the 81, had nowhere to go because you see the freight train. Some of the cars start trying to hold off one another, trying to score single file. Such McCandless up the road. Then, up said road, Danson scrapes the wall. This leads in turn to Martinez to get off the gas, nearly hitting the back bumper. Tries to get off the gas, and bam! That Menards machine hits the back end, and around goes the 81 as a result in a track blocker as poor number 8 car just about missed it.
Yeah, I was about to say he almost missed it, but really you're working with two separate incidents here. There's the one with Alec Martinez up the road at the exit of turn 2 when it starts, and then the second one between Braxton DeWeese and Malachi Drake, who got into each other in the middle of 1 and 2, and that took out a fair few throwbacks to boot. Jeff Gordon's Performance Alliance car that I believe was run in the 2004 season was part of that incident. That's the scheme that Adam de Blasio is running. You've got one of Dale Earnhardt's old number 8 cars that Braxton DeWeese has. The one year that he thought that running the 8 was cooler than running the 3 back in the very early good wrench days. So 2 cars swept up in that. You saw the number 6 machine of Nathan Lyon, who is running the exact same scheme that Ryan Newman will be racing in Sunday's Southern 500. Going to be throwing back to his 1999 USAC championship, that hotbed back in the 90s that developed so many talents that went on to race in the Cup Series. Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, all drivers who came through the midget system and made pretty good use of it. So.
Yeah, and that's a great thing for those drivers to just kind of pay homage to what they used to do and their own stuff. It's not necessarily about having a scheme from somebody who you looked up to, but, you know, something that you ran in your past. And a great save by the 15 there, by the way, after the wreck ensued there, getting really sideways. Alex Bell pointed towards the outside wall and able to recover the car and minimize the damage there. But that whole entire wreck was very reminiscent of kind of what we saw with Jimmy Mullis here in the opening laps of this race. Just, you know, the field starts to get a little bit bunched up there. Somebody gets the little checkup, and then the field, as the wreck happens, just gravitates towards the inside wall.
Eventually what goes up will come down. That's sort of how it works here at Darlington. Is we'll take a moment under the yellow flag to remind you that tonight's broadcast is going to be followed up by a decent amount of racing this week here in the world of podium esports. You've got a fair few amount of events over the course of the weekend. You've got PCA Sim Racing returning this Friday night. The best of the best in the Porsche Club of America on iRacing will head to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to kick off Series 5, which will be the first to feature the GT4 Porsche Cayman. So we're going to go GT4 racing from Laguna Seca, and our broadcast will start on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Saturday night, you've got the For the Fans Grand National Series presented by Splash and Go Graphics from Darlington Raceway. You'll see the green flag on the Podium Esports Twitch channel at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Then Sunday night, if you want to take a break from the Southern 500, flip on over to the GameWorks Racing League. They too go at Darlington. They'll race at 8 p.m. Eastern this upcoming Sunday, September the 6th, before we're back at it with the Esports Racing League in a few weeks' time. But a lot of fun. We'll see if we can find a few more throwbacks to talk about here. There was one that I noticed a little bit further back. You've got Evan Rice, who currently runs in 14th. He is running the exact same scheme that Ryan Blaney will be running on Sunday in the number 12 car. So fitting, we'll match up the number and match up everything and make it work well and do very, very nicely. And then a little bit further back in the 98, you've got Presley Shore running a throwback to Dale Jarrett's championship winning scheme from 1999, the only time that DJ became a Winston Cup champion. But for many years, that Ford Quality Care Taurus was very dominant, and Thunderbird too, if we are to be fair about it. Did run the Thunderbird for a few years, but the Taurus, I think, is maybe what people remember a little bit better. But in either case, multiple Daytona 500s. He won the Brickyard 400 back in 1999 and had a lot of success with that number 88 car, JP.
Yeah, absolutely. Is an iconic car with what was shown its speed from Dale Jarrett during the late 1990s. And it's one where it was very popular. Great job by the Indy Autosport organization for having a proper accurate representation for their respective throwback. But these cars up front, it's about to get interesting, James, because the top 4 are still on the older tires. However, the next cars behind in row 3 are on the fresher tires. Then you still have Nick Miller on old tires scattered in. Everybody else has come in at least once in the pits today.
Dylan Basin on 2 tires is the first car that came down some 11 laps ago under that most recent caution. He'll restart in 5th. Nick Short also took tires. He's in 6th. And then you have to slide a little bit further back to find Nick Miller, who is currently scored in 7th. He's the last car who did not take tires. Everybody else in the field has come down for service at least once. So watch that top 4. It's the end and bottom line, I suppose, of what we're going to see on this restart. Good jump, though, for Solis, who nailed it. Anthony Burrows, on the other hand, did not. Spun the tires from that jump to second gear. Here comes Connor Horn, peeking to the inside. Thought about it for a moment, but they'll go single file. But watch the run the fresh tires get coming out of 2, Ricky Springer. That's where you really start to see them come into play.
Oh, absolutely, because that car is going to get really tight for these guys on no tires later on here, especially when you get up to speed. Turn 1 and 2 is usually full throttle when you're getting up through the gears and getting moving. But once you get around 1 to 2 times, it's really going to start to get tight and maybe even a little bit loose, snapping loose, as we now have a battle for the lead going off into turn 1 pipe.
We do have a battle for the lead. Anthony Burrows coming to the bottom. He'll get underneath Jose Solis Jr. and take over P1. Burrows came into tonight as the points leader and will continue to extend if he can get the victory at Darlington. But Solis just looks like he is not having a fun time at all with that car on old tires. It looks very tight. He's struggling to get off the corner. Here comes Dylan Basin on the 2 tires underneath the 75 machine, and Connor Horn in that top flight computer Chevy Camaro looking to follow suit behind that number 08 and go chase after Burrows as one car gets in the wall just a little bit further back. It is bouncing off the wall again and checked up. There was nowhere for Nathan Lyon to go. He held the 6 back. It was the 77 of Blaze McKinney running a Jimmy Johnson throwback to the 2006 season, I believe. But there was nothing Nathan Lyon could have done, and he just ran right into the back of the 77 off and through, JP.
Yeah, this is like a brick wall of cars right now with the drivers on older tires. This is absolute chaos. Lyon now without a hood, he's going to have some trouble for the rest of this race, even if he gets that fully repaired potential damage to the engine in that regard. But again, Bason's still the first driver on even 2 tires up in the front. Contact right behind Cram as Miller's nearly spun.
We'll see 1 car, 2 cars, 3 cars go down to the bottom. I think that's Blake McCandless who went all the way down to the apron. And now here comes the 6 of Nathan Lyon through the middle as 1 car goes spinning on the front straightaway. It's Anthony Alfredo as the yellow flag comes out again. And Jared Ickes also around on the front stretch. But I think that ultimately just stemmed from about 3 or 4 incidents that almost happened. And then we finally had one happen because, Ricky, they were, for a moment, 4 wide coming down the front straightaway.
Oh, absolutely, and everybody just trying to get back up onto the racetrack. Everybody trying to merge, get a little bit, as we're going to see the replay here, and Anthony Alfredo just stuck between a rock and a hard place there, right in the middle of the track. We're going to get a better look at it here from up above. But a car comes up, he's got a car on his outside, one in the middle of the track, and he just has nowhere to go, stuck in the middle there, and tried to make a move, but just a little contact made. And a couple of cars going around on the front straightaway, and oh, more contact after the wreck there for Anthony Alfredo.
Not the night that the boss man of the ERL, I think, wanted to have, but maybe more importantly, you start looking towards pit road and look what Anthony Burrows is doing. Dylan Basin, Jose Solis Jr., Connor Horn, Lucas Cram. Oh, and then a little bit of strategy there to keep 1 car out. Looks like Dylan Basin will stay out and assume the race lead as Burrows leads everybody else down pit road. So Basin will be the leader coming to the restart, JP, but he's going to be the only one on old tire.
See on the replay press, we saw it just avoided all the chaos there, but I mean, they tried to nearly wreck it, James, for 3 laps, it seemed. Because you had Minter 45 degrees in front of the whole field, saved at the previous lap. You have this. You have everyone hitting the wall in turn 3 and 4 off the restart. You had a couple stuffed in the fence off turn 2. I'm surprised they kept it clean for that long, and so many cars are without damage right now in this situation. As you mentioned, strategy is opened up. Basin, Laprade, Martinez, Rosales, Danson, Kendrick all stayed out. Keep in mind, 3 of those drivers just mentioned, Martinez, Danson, and Kendrick, had pit the prior caution, James. So this is where those tire sets we talked about come right on in.
You have to keep an eye on how much you have or have not used the tires. So we'll watch and see what happens with this restart, because it's about 5 or 6 cars yet again that are staying out and trying to play the strategy car. Danson's doing it not for the first time tonight, so really getting up on the strategy from all the way on the other side of the world. But in either case, I think normally we wouldn't necessarily turn our attention to the real world and any sort of partnerships that are going on with these races in the real world, but I think this race deserves and merits special consideration, and I know that Ricky probably has some experience with this too. But Ricky, can we take a second to talk about how exciting it is? Not that Bojangles wasn't a great partner for the Southern 500, but to have Cookout sponsoring that race.
Oh, it's absolutely great. I mean, you think after a late night of racing, you want to go out and get some food, and really the only places like that are Cookout being open. So it's nice when big corporations and companies partner with races, especially places that they know the racers are going to go after a race. You think of places like Waffle House and stuff like that, places that the guys that work their butts off the whole entire day, that go out there and bust their butts inside of a race car, that sweat all day, they want to have something good for dinner. Well, that's the perfect place for you. So I don't think it could fit any better for that to be a good top sponsor.
I suppose we probably need to do a little bit of explaining for those who are watching, especially outside of the Southeast and don't have any experience with Cookout. So for those uninitiated and unaware, Cookout is a classic drive-through, sort of checkers or rally style burger joint that was started in Greensboro, North Carolina back in 1989 and has since expanded across the Southeast, and is famous for being about the only place open after 2 a.m. on any night, especially on the weekends. And I will say, especially in my work with the Real Life Solid Rock Carriers car store, that there have been a few cases this season where we've been on the road back to home after a late Saturday night short track showdown, and Cookout's the only place that's open. So the milkshakes are the star. Over 1.3 million combinations, I've been told, between the 30-plus milkshake flavors, and plenty of fun, I think, to go around on that front. As we like to say, when I was living in London, we'd go into central London to meet up with all the Panthers fans, watch Panthers games together, and the first 3 questions that were asked were, what's your name, where are you from, what's your go-to Cookout tray? Personally, chicken quesadilla, side of fries, side of a honey mustard wrap, and usually a chocolate cherry milkshake, for those who might be wondering. So tune into the Cookout Southern 500, 6 p.m. this Sunday night on NBC, and make sure that you have the GameWorks Racing League on at 8 p.m. Have your laptop up during the big show on Sunday night, and we'll pay attention and have lots of fun. And I suppose at some point down the line, JP, we can trade the Cookout stories for some of the Tim Hortons stories that you have up in Ontario.
Well, technically, Tim Hortons is actually in the States, too. You know, in Michigan, I think there's some in Ohio as well. No, but of course, known for its donuts, its coffee. It's been getting into a lot of sandwiches. Partnered at one point, actually, to sell burgers recently. And that didn't work out too grand. But an interesting brand, to say the least, Tim Hortons in 2020, but an interesting restart coming up here with all this tire strategy coming into play, where 6 on forward stayed out, as we said, but on 2 different pit cycles. Everyone else used another set of their tires.
I will make known public before we go back green flag racing that I have advocated for the Tim Facts section of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series broadcast, always delivered by Tim Terry when he teams up with Evan Pashoko in the booth for the Coke series, that those segments, or that segment in particular, should be renamed Tidbits after the very famous donuts of Tim Hortons. And being Canadian, I think it makes sense that those two would link up. And there's no trademark here in America where the broadcaster originates from, so I think legally we'd be in the clear. But I'll let you all in chat push that one as we get set to go green flag racing once again. As Dylan Basin brings us back to green flag racing, he and Brian LaPrade will take off and get the jump, and they'll go off into 1 and 2, and Basin will get maybe a car length or so on the front 5, as there goes the 10 machine of Tucker Minter sideways down on the apron. He caught the apron, and he's going to lose about 10-15 spots before he gets the car back going again, Ricky.
Yeah, and he tried to save it one time and then got back on that just little banked area before it gets completely flat and then lost it again. But a great save by him to not loop that car completely around or overcorrect back up into the field as another car sideways. I believe that's a 29 down the front straightaway. They're going to be almost 3 wide now entering into turn 1 as they get that sorted out.
Nose to tail, nose to tail, nose to tail, all the way up to Basin, who's got the lead. First car on fresh tires is Connor Horn in the 67, who's just behind Matt Danson and that Peter Brock throwback that we talked about a little bit earlier. Also making big moves. How about the 12 of Evan Rice on fresh tires, too? He's alongside, or at least was alongside the 77 of Blaze McKinney, and then had to back out of it. Couldn't quite get the run he wanted off the corner, so he'll slide back in line and go back to 12. McKinney will hang on to 11th and then get loose in the middle of the corner. And now here comes Rice underneath, and it looks like Chris Rabel in the 05 will follow just behind, JP.
Yeah, and this is now the freight train where you need to be careful if you're stuck on the top line and don't back off, because if you try keeping on the gas, yes, you can keep momentum and try to keep the spot, but it's so easy just right there to slap the wall like McKinney just did and lose even more time and add even more damage. But for these leaders up towards the front, it's been intriguing because remember, LaPrade was involved in an incident, Martinez was involved in an incident off turn 2. Several of these drivers who are up towards the top 5 have significant damage, but are able to keep a hold on set positions because of the track position game. The first driver on 4, it's Connor Horn. He's coming in quick.
Connor Horn to the inside of Brian LaPrade looking for second, and while he tries to take over second, we will see if we can get our iRacing Midway Race Break in, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian Supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Basin your leader for the moment. Horn charging, though. That may change as Connor Horn goes to the inside of the 08. Will make the pass quickly. So how about Connor Horn, your new race leader, ahead of Dilla Basin. Brian LaPrade in the 3rd spot. Alec Martinez 4th. Matt Danson 5th in the Peter Brock throwback from 1972. Nick Short runs in 6th, 7th to Lucas Cram. Anthony Burrows runs in 8th, 9th to Steven Rosales, and Ryan Kendrick holds 10th, JP.
11th spot is Chris Rabel, who is getting freight trained by several cars. Evan Rice also going to file on by. Garrison Hogan among the drivers inside the top 20 with Presley Soar, Blake McCandless, Blaze McKinney, Jose Solis Jr., Michael Finlayson, Jared Ickes along with Golly in 20th position right now on the racetrack. James.
21st is John Midget. Nick Indelicato is 22nd. 23rd is Nathan Lyon. And 24th is Alex Bell. Brett Gardner holds 25th. 26th is Colby Wells. Tucker Minter up to 27th is Caden Atkins, runs in 28th. 29th to Nick Miller. And Nathan Rabideau runs in 30th.
Deep in the field now as a result of one driver ducking down to Kendrick, Zimmer, de Blasio, Drake. The rest of the drivers 2 laps down or more. Alfredo is in 35th position. DeWeese 2 laps down in 36th. Justin Brown 3 laps down 37th. Henrada in the pits right now 11 laps down with significant damage. And Jimmy Mullis, well, he's been trying to get his modified fixed for a good 32 minutes.
A lot of damage to Jimmy Mullis's car. Not what the defending champion of the ERL wanted this evening. As that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. And I think, given what was announced today, Ricky Springer, and I know especially since you are a road racing driver, we knew that the LMP2 was coming to iRacing in the September build. But how about this for a surprise that was announced earlier today, as Corvette Racing were the ones to break the news that the C8R, as Presley Sora slacks the wall in 1 and 2, but it's the C8R that is coming to iRacing in the September build. Out of nowhere, I think. Not a lot of people actually expected that as they wreck on the back straightaway, but how about it? I have to believe you, as a road racing driver at heart, you have to be excited about the new Corvette coming into this set.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I can say is I'm going to be spending a lot of money on iRacing upcoming in the September build. So many great things coming to the service. We have a lot of great short tracks that are in the works and coming to the service, as well as road course racing. iRacing always does a great job of keeping everything up to date and really keeping stuff for everyone. As we take a look at the replay here going down the backstretch, again, just one of those issues where a wreck happens and everybody just kind of gravitates towards the bottom of the track. We're going to see exactly what caused it. Looks like the 5 car kind of forcing it up to the top side. Maybe didn't know he was clear, or maybe just got a little tight coming off the corner there. And, well, the guy on his outside just had nowhere to go, kind of pinched him up in the wall there.
Maybe more importantly, Tucker Minter absolutely T-boned the 5 machine trying to avoid all that. It was John Midget and Michael Finlayson that got into the wall on the exit of turn 2. And as Midget came back down the racetrack, he slid right into the path of Tucker Minter, and Minter just pile drove the 5 in the middle of the back straightaway. So definitely some engine damage to the 10 machine, who wasn't having the greatest of nights already, but I think it just got a lot worse for Minter, as he's going to have a tremendous amount of damage to try and get fixed up on that number 10 machine. And Lucas Cram is now the one who's going to play the strategy game. And it just seems like we have a rotated cast of characters up at the front, JP, and we'll see whether or not Cram ends up being one that can hang on to this in the end.
Welcome to Darlington, where strategy is the name of the game, right? And we're seeing that exact example there with some of these drivers trying to mix things up with some of these caution flags, because you never know when they're going to fall. And you also, at the same time, need to still manage those tire sets. You just can't come in every single time and boom, get some brand new tires. Some of these drivers, at this rate, James, might be forced to even take 2 left sides, remember, from some of the early 2 tire calls by the end of this race, and might be deep in the field for others. It's going to get intriguing because Cram's only used 1 total set this entire race. Rice, though, was pit 3 times. Lyons had to pit twice, including for damage repair. And Jared Ickes is also pit twice. So you have various strategies and boxed-in moments here, so to speak, for these drivers with under 30 to go.
Plenty of moments to consider as we just consider the impact. I think I want to roll back to the LMP2 and roll back to the Corvette now that we can talk about it. Have a lot of fun discussing what's going to come in the build, because we also know that the track roster will grow by at least 1 as the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway will be making its debut in September, and there are a few more that have been talked about that are eventually coming to iRacing, not officially announced yet, but some that should be coming in the near future, or rather some that are announced but not dated, rather, and ones that we can talk about. Weed Sport is on the mix for all the Northeastern dirt fans. Crandon for those who love the pro trucks of the Lucas Off-Road Series. They're going to be running at Crandon in the near future. We know that Long Beach is on its way. Hockenheim is coming to the sim in the future. So a few good places, I think, that we're going to want to run maybe what? Call it hopefully within the next year. We'll see what actually happens, but we know for certain Nashville, the LMP2, and the Corvette coming for sure in September, Ricky.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, actually, until you just said something about the Corvette, I actually didn't know that was coming out in this build. I had no clue. I've kind of been taking a little hiatus from social media myself, so I didn't even know. I had to go look on Twitter and just to see if you were messing with me there. But that is huge news for everybody in the road course community on iRacing, myself included, to be able to race cars that you see on the track. That's a huge thing that a lot of other simulators have issues with, is that they release and they don't come out with new content. iRacing is always on top of it and always coming out with new things to what you see in the real world of racing, whether it's road course racing, dirt racing, asphalt racing. I mean, anywhere you look, iRacing has the best array of cars that are on the track right now in real life that you can hop in when you have a spare second to go out there and turn some laps by yourself, or maybe you want to get your I rating and your safety rating up, go out there and run some official races. So it's really great what we have going on here.
I made the note on Twitter earlier today because I was with Rents the Fence here on Twitch. Rents Brown, great friend of mine and one of the premier streamers in iRacing. But Rents was on a stream, and it was me and I think Jason Petzauer and a few other folks. Tyler O'Neill was in the mix too. And we were just generally discussing. And Rents, no less than about a week ago, said that he didn't think iRacing would get the C8 ever. And lo and behold, Twitter today proves him wrong. But I think the biggest thing, JP, as we get set to go back to Green Flag Racing, is that to get a car like that this soon after its release, I can't think of too many other cars that are that significant that have come out on the sim so quickly after they made their debut in the real world. It's essentially only an 8-month turnaround between, or maybe 9 if we're going to be fair about it, but a 9-month turnaround between the Corvette making its on-track debut and its debut in iRacing. That's big for iRacing, and I think hats off to everybody at GM and Pratt Miller for helping to get that done.
Yeah, I think everyone's happy in terms of that partnership. I actually got an email from said organization today in regards to that. It's absolutely huge because a lot of times, absolutely, especially on the roadside, we have, in some cases, waited 3, 4, 5 years for some of those cars. To see it that early is absolutely huge, and a step in the right direction for iRacing. As off and away goes Cram, and a step in the forward-facing direction.
I was about to say, we talk about a GM car, and then it's Fords that are leading this pack 1, 2, and 3. Eyes up though on Connor Horn. He's the first car on fresh tires. The problem is that he's stuck behind the very damaged Nathan Lyon as they go off into 2 once again. And we're beginning to work our way towards the end of this race. 51 laps up on the board, 75 that we'll need to complete this evening. So Horn, I'll be curious to see if Horn dips to the bottom, as I figured he would. He'll get to the inside, and he's going to drive right past Nathan Lyon and right to the inside of Garrison Hogan in the 36. Watch that 67 car. He's the first car on fresh tires that is trying to drag Brian LaPrade with him to the front.
Yeah, and Horn has really gotten down that move of getting behind somebody in turns 3 and 4 and then just cutting it real tight coming off and not really even having to lift, it doesn't look like, and just drive right down to the bottom and get to that, I guess we would call it in road racing, a passing zone here. He does it again to pass the 12 car and just see him fly by as a car hard into the inside wall on the front stretch.
Big incident there. They'll come right back up onto the racetrack and collect a few more. But that was Dylan Basin, who had stayed out on 2 tires and just come down pit road, who got turned coming out of turn 4 to bring out the yellow flag. And a heavy hit there on the inside wall, as looked like the 33 machine. We'll take a look at the replay, but it was Nick Short who caught the fence or got loose or got help or something, but in either case, he got sent down towards the wall, and poor Dylan Basin had nowhere to go. He was just the pinball at the end of all that. Flew off that inside retaining wall. A significant bounce. He hit that at just about 140 miles an hour, and then came back on the racetrack, was clipped by Steven Rosales in the 61, came up the racetrack, absolutely nowhere for Chris Rabel in the 05 to go, who just ran right into the door of Basin's machine. And that big incident there on the front stretch to slow everything down on lap 54, JP.
Yeah, and at that point, Basin had nothing he could do, just was along for the ride, because normally in that situation, you try and lock up the brakes. It's not easy to lock them up when they're not on the ground. That was the case most of the incident, and for the rest of these drivers, they just avoided being in pandemonium. Miller, my goodness, just avoided by maybe a couple inches.
Maybe if that. If we take a look and potentially see, hearing that the 88 Colton Zimmer did a nice job to get through that, and I think he was right near the 05 machine, and that all played out. We'll take a peek and see, but it was wild on the front stretch. And he just was able to clear Dylan Basin's machine, got on the brakes, locked it down hard, and pretty much slalomed his way. Locked the tires down, but he got through it. To his credit, Ricky managed to find a way to keep that 88 in one piece.
Yeah, and what a great save there at the end, too, to not come back up on the track and collect more cars. Granted, everybody's slowing down by that point, but look at that. Inches from the inside wall, locks it down, and has to jam the clutch in and not stall the car. But what a great save by him. I think that's probably the closest I've seen a car get to a wall, unless we're talking in drifting terms of Formula Drift, but I'd give him a 10 for that one.
10 out of 10. I don't know. We're talking drift. There's only 2 people that we know in the podium realm that can really do it right. That's our good friends Keenan Kusin and Ian Plash, who are the lead commentators for the Outrun Open, the Game and Drift Series, and the Esports Drifting Association too. So we know we've got people who really know how to do it well. A solid angle, although I would say I don't know if the initiation was exactly what you would want, JP, but definitely solid angle coming through the front straightaway there.
Yeah, if he has even a slightly different angle, he's likely smacking that wall on the inside and then demolishing the back end and potentially damaging the fender, or potentially how that engine's going to run, because you can get engine damage, because that's where the fuel pickup is, specifically on the race car. Just phenomenal job to keep it off that inside wall, absolutely. But at this point, it's becoming where you almost want just to become a survival race, because if you can get by the first wave of older tire cars, you're in a good spot. But about 6 on back has been where it's like a brick wall to get around anyone on older tires. They've struggled past that point to make moves in then double file groupings, and in turn, I think that's where just a lot of the attritions come into play, because normally you get a long run, James, you get spread out on this racetrack. They haven't gotten the chance to actually spread out with the cautions, precautions, 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 maybe missing a caution in there.
Wait, what about the cautions, though? Did you talk about the cautions, JP? Because I didn't think you talked about the cautions enough, to be fair.
Yeah, we forgot about the cautions that are inside the dollhouses or inside the pit boxes and whatnot. So there's been a lot of them tonight. We're overflowing.
The dollhouses on pit road. That is a first. I've never heard anyone at iRacing call the pit box wagons dollhouse. So,
hey, you can have a dollhouse inside the pit wagon.
Yeah, oh, you definitely could. There's plenty of room for dollhouse in there. So I'll bet that's actually the secret to victory. I wonder, maybe what they haven't told us, Ricky, is that the whole time Jimmy was winning those 5 championships in a row, they had a lucky dollhouse that kept up on the pit wagon and sat right next to Chad Knaus. They made sure to hide it so you couldn't see it on camera. But maybe that's the real reason why they were so successful back in the low 2000s.
Yeah, I would say so. They had to have something, maybe a lucky horseshoe or something, maybe a leprechaun in their pocket. I mean, but speaking of that, unfortunately, Jimmy not making the championship, that's a little upsetting, especially for somebody who's seen him win all his championships.
I think he said it best, though. 7 championships it is, and he's very proud of it, too. Give him credit. We'll take a moment to step aside and bring you a short commercial break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more action of the Esports Racing League from Darlington Raceway right after this here on Podium.
At McConey Setup Shop, we offer custom-built setups for any asphalt oval car. Prices starting at just $5. Weekly setups available for all Legends, late models, modifieds, and NASCAR trucks, Xfinity, and Cup cars. Do you need one-on-one driver coaching? We've got you covered. Visit www.McConeySetupShop.com and find yourself in Victory Lane. McConey Setup Shop, handling all your setup needs so you don't have to.
Welcome back to Podium Esports coverage of the Esports Racing League presented by SimSuits. As we are coming down towards the finish of the Advanced Racing Development 165K from Darlington Raceway. James Plank here alongside Justin Prince, Ricky Springer, and our producer Ryan Bauer, as the pace truck will lead us to green once again, and Lucas Cram will be the one to lead us to green. Cram, Ickes, Connor Horn, Evan Rice, Garrison Hogan staying out on tires. Everybody else with fresh rubber from Briar LaPrade on back. Cram gets on the gas pedal and a decent restart for the 44 and for the 67 of Connor Horn. Not so much for Jared Ickes in the one car. We'll have to hang out top. One car, though, sideways on the first straightaway. 2 cars, 3 cars, and they wreck going off into one. Before we even get going, it's the 55 of Brett Gardner is on his lid, barrel rolling off into the corner, and eventually is going to land on his roof. Big incident over in one, JP.
Yes, it looked like somebody just either tapped the wall or just couldn't get going. In fact, we may have a lane change before the start and finish line that caused this, because up the track with the 98 of Presley Sower coming to the start and finish, cut off Danson. Danson taps the wall, and that ricochets McKinney into the fence as Danson spins around the middle of the racetrack as the back half of the field gets crashed.
The valid point there that Sora did change his lanes before the start-finish line, which I believe is against the rules in the ERL rulebook. So that might be something that race control takes a look at. But yeah, Danson had to check up. He went sideways, eventually got turned. So unfortunate end to the evening for the Peter Brock throwback. But some of the other cars that got swept up in this help the poor 55 machine of Brett Gardner. Michael Finlayson didn't know where to go. Nathan Rabideau was caught up in this. Colton Zimmer was not so lucky this time. He ran right into the back. Some of the other cars believe he got back into Ryan Kendrick in the 00, but they all checked up trying to avoid it on the front straightaway. And yeah, Zimmer just pile drove it in, couldn't see anything ahead of him.
Yeah, you know, so many cautions in this race, and you said cautions breed cautions earlier, but You see 2 cars there changing lanes, a 61 car as well, going up to the top half of the field there. So the 55 for a wild ride as we ride on board with him, barrel rolling up into the catch fence and then still rolling, now sliding on his roof back down to the apron of the track. But 2 cars there changed lanes. I believe the 61 may have gone up because of a spinning car, but that's definitely a no-no, especially before the start-finish line there, and you see the implications of why that is a rule, because it checks everybody up. It makes people make those aggressive moves before they even enter turn 1, and at a full throttle corner here on a tight racetrack, going 3 to 4 wide because somebody changed lanes is definitely not what you want to be doing in turns 1 and 2.
That, I think, is exactly why that rule is in place, because if you do that and you end up cutting off somebody like Sora did to Danson, it forces him to check up, and then you saw what happened. About 8-10 cars picked up significant damage from the accident that resulted, JP.
And there's a reason it's a rule in real life as well, because it can be dangerous, and we've seen the danger of it, where you're not expecting someone to come up like that quickly off a restart with that little space in between the car in front of you. In turn, that just led to all that chain reaction. There's definitely going to be some upset drivers, I think, from that, because at least 10, 15 cars ended up getting some type of contact, I believe, and at least several who were contenders inside the top 15 at one point of this race, at one point or another, are now absolutely demolished and having to get significant damage repair. It's to the point where drivers like Brown and Alfredo, who've lost laps this race, are now gaining positions because of them having to take significant amounts of damage repair and potentially lose their own laps.
Justin Brown and Anthony Alfredo are both 3 laps down, but they're still running on the racetrack and have managed to pick up a few spots here. So maybe all hope is not lost after all. You know, we saw in the Coke Series broadcast last Tuesday night, Keegan Leahy had his internet go out. A big storm up in Nova Scotia where he calls home, and had to reconnect to the server. And there were so many incidents and so many cars in the lead lap that I think eventually, JP, he only finished a lap down, right?
Give or take, yeah. He got a couple lucky dogs. I believe he actually got involved in one of the incidents at one point with some damage. Remember, Dylan Duvall also had to race with only 1 monitor after losing both his side monitors because his power flickered out, where it only affected the monitors and affected one other part of his house, but the computer kept on running at the time. So that was just an absolutely chaotic moment in that race, but it's also a showing of, if you keep on racing, if you're able to get the damage repaired or recover from mistakes early on in the race or technical problems, you can in turn gain those positions back if you keep on going. It's not just as simple as, okay, I'm sufficiently damaged, let's just park it.
You know, Leahy came back into the server. He was about 3 laps down, I believe.
4.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, but still, point to be made there, point to prove, and it's now, I believe, Blaze McKinney who would be the recipient of the lucky dog, given that Matt Danson, I think, has pulled that number 30 behind the wall and may well be done for the evening. We'll keep our eyes peeled to see if that is, in fact, the case with the 30 car. But more importantly, I think, Ricky, for the drivers who stayed out, Lucas Graham, Connor Horn, Jared Ickes, Evan Rice, Brian LaPrade, and company all back on fresh tires. But that front 4, Horn pitted just before LaPrade and Hogan and company, but Cram, Ickes, and Rice all came down 30-plus laps ago. Ickes got a splash, I think, of fuel. Rice and Cram got 4 tires. So Ickes probably has the oldest tires out of that bunch and is going to have to play significant defense on the bottom because he's got LaPrade, McCandless, Nick Short all right behind him, all on fresh tires.
Yeah, but I think those guys who stayed out here, they know how old their tires are and they know how the cars are handling, but also you have to think about the way that this race is kind of shaping up, and the tone of the race throughout the whole entire night here is these guys are thinking that more cautions are going to come out, and they're also thinking about how difficult it is to pass. So a lot of these guys may be banking on the fact that there's more cautions, and, you know, if they do get a run, how difficult it is to pass.
We'll see how it shakes out as Cram will lead the field to green as we look towards that 10 lap to go window. He takes off. Connor Horn didn't get the greatest of starts, but he's got the fresh rubber to help to draw even with the 44 machine, and he'll go to second as they come through 1 and 2. As they make their way through the middle of the corner, watch the run the 67 gets. He's done it all night long. He's been better through the middle of the corner than everybody else, and he'll do it once again. Here he goes to the inside for the race lead underneath Lucas Cram, JP.
And he's got the freshest tires as the caution's out. Rabideau's around down the back straightaway. At the right time, too. I believe just about. We'll see who gets the scoring loop, though.
We'll keep an eye to see who does get the scoring loop. It was certainly close. Horn almost had it, but 2 incidents actually that took place. The one on the backstretch brought out the yellow, but then it looks like there was contact between Garrison Hogan and Yusuf Ghali as they all checked up as the yellow came out. And Ghali was, off of the brakes, and Hogan didn't have any time to react and ended up going sideways over in the middle of 3 and 4.
And that was just as the caution had just came out, mind you, too. You see what happened to Rabideau. Understandable since he was in the middle of the racetrack and several cars had the dodge, but here, caution comes out right there. Just contact with Martinez and Ghali nowhere to go as around goes Hogan with all that contact. This is just as they're trying to get off the gas, mind you.
Not really trying to go too crazy with it, but it was Nathan Rabideau who started all of this. He was the one who went around over in turn 2 and had to lock it down on the brakes. Looks like he just overdrove it on corner exit, caught the apron. That's what happened, Ricky, and that's especially at that point in the racetrack coming out of turn 2. You catch the apron there, you are at minimum getting loose. If you try and hold the throttle down, you're going around in some way, shape, or form. So I think credit to Rabideau for saving it and also not getting into anybody else.
Yeah, but really, if you hit the apron anywhere here, it's just such a strong drop-off there. I mean, you can see the lines in the pavement from where it kind of progressively goes down with each little strip of asphalt there. So you can see him just locking it down to not come back up in front of the field, as we'll get another look at it here, the 98 into the wall there, and kind of does that double tap there. If you get into the wall hard enough, it'll kind of bounce one time, and the next time you hit it, it'll really snap you off the wall, and that seems like what happened, or maybe he was just trying to turn off of it there and finally got some grip from that right front getting off of the wall after the bounce and came down the track a little bit. But yeah, if you hit that apron at all right below those white hash marks there, it's going to be trouble for you and probably anybody that's behind you with the speed that these guys are carrying. But to the strategy point of things right now, it's not looking too bad of the 44 car staying out as we come across the line here to get 8 laps to go as we're under caution.
Within 10 laps to go, and it's been so hard to establish a rhythm in this race. It's been a series of sprints as we have considerably whittled down the field, JP. We started tonight with 39 cars. We're down to 33 on track, and looks like 7 cars out, so maybe 32 on track because math is not a favorite of mine, I'll put it that way. But 7 cars behind the wall. Jimmy Mullis, Robert Hanrada, Jose Solis Jr., Dylan Basin, Brett Gardner, Michael Finlayson, and Matt Danson have all called it an evening already.
It's been one of attrition, and that's kind of usually been the rhythm or kind of the tempo in some of these races at Darlington with the specific car. We've seen that tonight. But the man you're on board with, Connor Horn, he is in the best spot, I think, now, James, to win this race because he's got the freshest tires. His car doesn't even have a scratch on it. And everyone else that's on his tire strategy still either has damage or has to try and pass 2 or 3 older tire cars. I think this is Connor Horn's race to lose as long as things cycle out the way I think they may here, James, because in this type of race, with this amount of laps to go, you are not pitting or else you are not gaining your spots back likely unless there's a massive one.
The time to pit, I think, was a long while ago unless you're in the back of the pack and you're not necessarily concerned with racing for the win. You're just trying to get spots, which I think is definitely understandable. And so no surprise then that the top 20 cars have all stayed out. You have to go all the way back to Chris Rabel in 26 before you find someone who came in off of the racetrack and down to pit road under this yellow, because when we get back to it, Ricky, we might have 5-6 laps to go tops. That's not a lot of time, as JP said, to get your spots back.
Yeah, and that's, it's so difficult to pass here. You've seen guys all night long get side by side and somebody get into the wall, somebody get checked up. More cautions happen, more cars get wrecked. There's a lot of damage here. We're looking on board right now at one of the guys who has a ton of damage on the front end. You could see now, if you're not familiar, that's Briar LaPrade, by the way, in the 19 car that I was talking about. But if you're not familiar, the front of these stock cars are supposed to be aerodynamic and curved down to the nose and some straight lines there. But the nose of Briar LaPrade's car not looking too good, as you can see right into the engine bay there, and even the front splitter a little bit bent up. So I don't think that Cram and Horn have a whole lot of pressure from behind, but there are guys on newer tires, so that could come into play if we get 1 to 2 more cautions here, and those guys right there from third on back to probably fifth here get a little bit more damage, and we might have a real race on our hands between tires and older tires and newer tires.
Horn is the first of those cars that came in some 25 laps ago, and that's when most of the top 20 came down pit road last. So I think he's in a very good spot. Before we go back green flag racing, though, remind you that our broadcast of tonight's ERL events is brought to you by Advanced Racing Development. ARG is a manufacturing business located in New Jersey, whose services include the design, engineering, prototyping, and fabrication of racing equipment. They have the knowledge and equipment to offer quality, affordable products. For more information and to view their entire line of sim racing and performance racing products, visit www.advanced-racing.com. Tonight's broadcast is also brought to you by our friends at SimSeats. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality driving simulators, including motion systems, custom fabricated parts, and complete turnkey iRacing packages, all made in the United States of America. Their customer base includes all kinds of drivers, from amateurs to professionals, and their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Don't let it get track time to the weekend. Visit sim-seats.com for more information. Lights are out on the pace car. Lucas Cram will be the one to watch, but Connor Horn on the outside, JP, that's about as dangerous as I think it comes as we get ready to rock and roll and take off, and Lucas Cram gets beat by Connor Horn on the restart there.
Yeah, and Connor Horn is now, in fact, here in live action, James, running off and away. Great launch off that start. That set him up for the backstretch, and in turn, LaPrade and several others are getting trying to freight train the drivers on older tires. Big time gap for Connor Horn here. He's going to have to hope this stays green. Otherwise, things could get interesting. He's the fastest car on the track.
He is far and away the fastest car on the track. He's out in front by about 4 or 5 car lengths, and he just needs this to go green for the last few laps. He's in very good shape, but a very good battle between Blake McCandless, Jared Ickes, and Yusuf Ghali for 5th. Ricky?
Yeah, Blake McCandless kind of rocking the top side there. You're going to see that car try and get to the bottom of him. It's not quite going to work here, as you're going to see that car on the bottom get a little tight, and Blake McCandless going to get the run off of the top there. That's a 54 on his inside there. And a car spinning into turn 1, and a caution comes out, and more cars involved. 5, 6, 7 cars, it looked like. Got a little bit of damage out of that one, but another huge wreck here with 3 laps to go.
I saw someone get spun off going into turn 1, and looks like the answer to that question is that Jared Ickes was the one who went around at the end of it all, and it's very weird. Bounced off the fence down the middle of the straight and just came down across the nose of Anthony Burrows, who couldn't really do much of anything, and then right up into the racing groove, and nothing Nick Miller could have done, nothing Alex Bell could have done. Don't think there's much that Evan Rice could have done. Nowhere for Caden Aitkins to go. Everybody who got stuck up there up top ended up with a significant amount of damage, and not really any room to escape, JP.
Yeah, and apparently Jared was trying to spin it back around, is what he's telling his competitors there. Normally, again, you're sent down to the inside line. You're expecting that car to hold the brakes. That car just rolled right back up to the racetrack, and as you said, nothing they can do except hope you can avoid getting damaged or getting hit in that sequence with all the craziness and the track getting blocked.
I think the tough thing for Ickes is that given where that started, right before the entry into the corner, you're carrying so much speed down the straightaway that even if you do lock up the brakes and try and save it, Ricky, I still think he's probably going into the back of that mess in 1. And I think he's probably still coming up the racetrack, maybe not as quickly as he did, but not much I think he could have done in that case. He was in trouble as soon as he bounced off the fence and off of Burrow's car.
Absolutely, and it's one of those situations here at Darlington where we see most of these accidents gravitate towards the apron, and this is just one of those bad situations. He got turned at the right spot of the track where there's nothing you can do but just slide back up in front of the field. And you know, I've seen wrecks like that in real life here at Darlington where drivers will just get turned in that right spot and come right back up in front of the field. Jimmy Johnson involved in one of those accidents quite a few years ago. But you see that happen, and as soon as you see that as a driver behind that accident going on, you just know that it's not going to end up well for really anybody that's within 10 spots of those drivers, as we saw there. A couple of guys able to woe it down enough and get to the apron, but most of them just already carrying so much speed up at the top side of the track that when he came back up, there was really nowhere for them to go.
One of those incidents, JP, that you look back, and if you're seeing it in the rearview mirror, you know almost immediately. You look back there and you think to yourself and say, ooh, that one hurt.
110%. And you know, in that regard, it's like there goes at least 10, 15 cars. In the top of your head is the first thing with how many cars, again, get collected in that situation. Again, nobody go in that situation as a driver. You're just hoping that some of them are going to be okay, and the other part of your brain's thinking, more spots for me if anything was to happen to me, right? So for Connor Horn, though, to swoop back to this race lead, though, again, James, I'm going to be very interested to see how this plays out, because LaPrad's decent, but he's again has that damage where, especially with that splitter, it's not sealed to the ground now because of that hit to the left front of it. So that's going to allow air underneath said spoiler and cause it some issues in the corners. As well, Martinez is also in this respective grouping, where, remember, he got squeezed into the fence at one point with significant damage to that left side of the race car. He's up to third, and he's on the same side of Psycho tires, but how is his engine from how hard some of these hits were? This is going to be interesting, as well as Blake McCandless, who has one of the cleaner cars as well, who's up in the top 5 from all this.
I was just playing that game myself, panning through the field and see who actually had a clean car. And the only two that I see left are Connor Horn and then Lucas Cram in the 44 machine. The problem is that Cram has got 44 lap-old tires to Horn's 30. McCandless probably is next in line. He's got only 30 laps on the tires, just like Horn, but he's stuck in 5th, and we'll have 2 laps to go when we get the restart momentarily. We'll remind you of some of the events coming up over the course of the next week in the world of iRacing on Podium Esports. And our week continues with the return of PCA Sim Racing. GT4 Caymans coming to PCA Sim Racing for the very first time when Series 5 kicks off on Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll go from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. Going to be a lot of fun to see all the cars tackle that great circuit out in Monterey. Before, we've got a pair of races over the course of the weekend. The FTF Grand National Series, presented by Splash and Go Graphics, comes your way from Darlington this Saturday night, September 5th at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. And then the GameWorks Racing League, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium Esports during the Southern 500 at Darlington. So you'll have a race within a race at the end of it all. And then lots of fun, I think, coming up over the course of the next few weeks for PCA, for ERL, and all sorts of groups out there. But stay tuned to Podium Esports on Twitter, Facebook. Visit the YouTube for archives and on-demand replays of races, and Instagram as well. But the main place to see all the action, as always, twitch.tv/Podium Esports, as it will be all about Connor Horn coming to the green. It is our first crack at a green-white checkered of the evening, JP, and I think if Horn nails the restart, he should be in decent shape.
110% agree with you again at this point, where as long as he doesn't spin the tires especially, and as long as he gets single file, I think he's got it done. LaPrade, I don't know if he's going to be able to get built up enough for a run. I don't know if Martinez will be able to do so. It might take a little bit of luck for drivers on behind to get the job done. This is going to be where, as long as Connor doesn't make a mistake, that Top Flight Computers car is in a great position to take this checker tonight.
He's trying to go for his first win of the season. LaPrade trying to go for back-to-back wins, and Horn got a great restart. He's clear by 1 car lane, clear by almost 2 car lanes. He is gone. Goodbye, Connor Horn. Before they even get to turn 1, he's well clear of the field, and now it's going to be all about LaPrade and what everybody else can do. He'll slide up in front of Lucas Cram to take over second, and the battle is for third between Cram and Alec Martinez.
Yeah, and we're just going to work the way down the back straightaway here. Briar LaPrade cannot get that draft with how damaged that car is. You can see him trying to suck up on the 67 of Horn. Can't quite get there. They're 2 wide behind him for 3rd place, and a great battle on back.
A great battle as Connor Horn takes the white flag. They're 3 wide, though, for P3, JP.
3 wide, a bit of a squeeze. Up in the wall goes Cram. Goes into Martinez. Golly goes around with them. And Delcano gets through as Burrows, the points leader, gets behind. Down the back straightaway goes Horn. He leads by 2 car lengths.
Everybody torn up off of turn 2, but it's Brian LaPrade and Connor Horn who are the first back to the start-finish line, and Connor Horn will bring the top flight computer Chevy Camaro to victory lane at the Lady in Black. Connor Horn wins the Advanced Racing Development 165K for the Esports Racing League presented by Sim Seats at Darlington after a humongous wreck off of turn 2. Pretty much swept up everybody else that hadn't been nailed in some way, shape, or form. But that all started. We'll take a look at the replay here before we talk about Horn. Well, plenty of time to talk about Connor. We should start by covering what happened. It was Alec Martinez and the 44 Lucas Cram who got into it at the very beginning. That's where this all started, and it just continued all the way down the racetrack, Ricky.
Yeah, that's just another one of those accidents. We saw the whole entire night of these guys just getting together, and really it either gravitates towards the top or the bottom of the track. And unfortunately, this time it was up to the outside wall, the back straightaway, and a bunch of cars involved. Blake McCandless among those few who got a little bit of damage from that one and really did a great job of trying to avoid as much of it as possible there. But it's just what we saw the whole entire night, and I guess it's a little bit more aggressive here on a green-white checkered with it being so hard to pass. Of course, we saw the 3 wide, which was the instigator for that accident on the back straightaway going into turn 1 for the 3rd position there. And a lot of great hard racing, but these guys weren't quite able to keep it off of each other as well as they might have liked here tonight.
About 5 to 10 cars. I did not see anybody past about Colton Salick, Nick Short, end up through that. I think Salick might have been the one who maybe snuck through all this the best, as he got down on the apron, managed to sneak his way past Golly and company and just came right down the bottom. He was the last car, I think, to make it through all this. Everybody else back there got swept up in some way, shape, or form as they all went spinning and crashing into 2, JP.
Yeah, and you're going to see this in full view as we made it to the white flag, meaning the race is official. Caution can't come out of that point to slow down the field and all the mayhem. But you're going to see right here, the 3 wide is the first instigator. You don't usually want to see 3 wide at Darlington. Somebody usually backs off at this point. That time it was Golly, but Cram went into the wall and then drifted around down to the 54, and then Martinez ran away as everybody else just stacked up on the exit of turn 2 and set up this exciting battle for P3 in all of this, where Martinez still was able to hold on, despite having more of a damaged car than the 4 below him.
I almost lose count here. The drivers swept up in this. Caden Aikings, Yusuf Ghali took a huge hit. I think Aikings was the one who ended up T-boning Ghali at the side. It was indeed. Anthony Alfredo just got involved in this a little bit. Just going through the list of people here. Evan Rice went around again. Malachi Drake went around again. Looks like Braxton DeWeese went sideways. Adam de Blasio, Lucas Cramwell, that all started. Brian Kendrick might have snuck through the middle of all this. Indeed, he did. And interestingly enough, some of these cars way in the back. Presley Soares, another one that jumps out to me. He got that penalty not too long ago for switching lanes in the restart, and he ended up so far back on the restart that he just followed right in behind Anthony Alfredo and managed to sneak through all that and come away with a 12th place finish. Pretty respectable at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's, that's great to, as we look at a replay there, right in the middle of the action there, but we're going to ride on board with the 98 car just to see. You can see the whole entire field up in front of them here. This accident, of course, happening behind the huge accident that collected probably somewhere around a dozen cars, but you just see cars everywhere, really close Wow, almost got into a wreck there with Anthony Alfredo by running into the back of him there, but then gets another position through turns 3 and 4. So a great wreck avoidance there for him, but I think it's one of those situations where you pick a lane and just hope there's not a car spinning there when you get there.
You try to make it work, but at the end of the day, even though I think that we would see DJ say he'd be pretty proud of that move from Presley Sora, the night belongs to Connor Horn. We'll take you through the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished, starting with the 67, who gets his first win in ERL competition during this fall season. Brian LaPrade will come home second. Third went to Alec Martinez. You'll hear from all three of those drivers in just a moment. Nick Indelicato finished in fourth. Blake McCandless came home in the fifth spot. Sixth went to Nathan Lyon in car number 6. Colton Salick rebounds for a top 10 finish. He'll finish seventh. He'll be pretty happy with that one after the way his race played out. Garrison Hogan started in 30th, finished in 8th. Nick Short comes home with the top 10, as does the 88 of Colton Zimmer.
11th spot, Ryan Kendrick, remember, at one point had to pit actually during the green flag and ended up still coming back to the lead lap to an 11th place finish. Presley Sora, you mentioned his recovery drive to 12th. Anthony Burrows was among the drivers sandwiched into the wall off turn 2. Remember, was your points leader entering tonight's race. That's likely going to change now with Nathan Rabideau recovering from his spins up to 15th. Chris Rabel finished in 16th with Lucas Cram. He was involved in that last lap crash. Could have had a top 5, instead finishes 17th where he started. Atkins finished in 18th with Rice and Gully rounding out your top 20.
It was Braxton DeWeese in 21st, 22nd to the 09 of Malachi Drake. Adam de Blasio finished in 23rd, and Steven Rosales was way back in the field after Justin Brown finished in 24th. Alfredo was 25th, 26th to McKinney. Rosales was 27th. Jared Ickes came home 28th this evening. 29th went to Nick Miller. Matt Dunson and the Peter Brock throwback rounded out the top 30, JP.
31st spot on the Ouchbane list, 22 laps down is Wells. 23 is Gardner, involved in one of the cautions late in this race. Finlayson was involved in that massive stack up down the front. Basin, remember, got pinballed, then launched across the track just about, finished 34th. Minter, he had full on saves twice tonight, James, where he was 45 degrees across the front of the field, saved it both times, and the end still gets demolished, and the pole sitter finishes 35th after all of those saves. Solis Jr., remember, he stayed out strategy at one point, had significant damage to his left front, and in turn eventually got involved with the trouble in 36. Midget 37 laps down. Hadarada 38th, and Mullis was involved in the lap 1 crash to open up the race to finish a DNF 80 laps down.
And we welcome all of those who came in from Anthony Alfredo's stream and appreciate the raid from Anthony, as we now bring up to the booth Connor Horn, who is a race winner for the first time in 2020 in the ERL. And Connor, the tire strategy to me is what jumps out. We saw a lot of different drivers cycle through the front of the field depending on whether or not they stayed in or stayed out during yellows. So did you have a sense of the game plan you wanted to work with tonight if we had a generally caution-heavy race like what we saw out there this evening?
Yeah, I was definitely prepared to go for track position. I didn't have time to qualify, so I started at the back. So the first order of business was to just stay out of all the crashes, because when you're in the mid pack to the back of the pack, that's where a lot's going to happen. They wrecked out at 2. I was able to avoid damage there. And not much else happened around me. When that second caution came out, I was immediately thinking track position, because it's so hard to pass on the bottom here, especially in turns 3 and 4. If you can't get a run on the guy, you're not going to pass him. So I knew I had to get to the front with some sort of strategy. So I saved my tire sets and stayed out. Then another yellow came out after I was still, I think, 4th or 5th. Kept the track position, came down pit road, and then on that restart where I went to the lead, I was really hoping it went green from there. I didn't really want to deal with any more restarts, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. So from there on out, I took the final tire set there, and I was just thinking in my head, if we don't go green for like 10 laps here, I'm done pitting, and that's what happened. So I was just staying out. I was getting really frustrated on those 2 restarts behind Lucas. He drove a great race, but it was very frustrating when I had him clear into turn 3 and the scoring loop said otherwise. But you know, that is what it is. I was able to get another crack at him, got back by him, and Then had another restart with Breyer on me. Breyer's obviously one of the fastest drivers on the sim, and I had to try my best to hold him off on a green white checkered. I just knew if I was able to get far enough in front of him into turn number 3, I was just hoping that as long as he didn't have a run to get to my inside into turn number 3, I had a good shot at winning, and luckily they didn't wreck. We got the green white checkered off cleanly, and I was able to come up with the win.
You end up with a lot of success here, and this feels like something that you've been building towards off the last few weeks. Good finishes at Daytona, both of the road course and the oval, and then you get it done here tonight in Darlington. Is this something that you feel like you've been building towards, and something that you thought might be a possibility? Because from our end, it feels like this has been coming for a bit, just with the way your performances have gone as the season has progressed. So where's your head on that? What's your mindset on that?
My head right now is that I feel like I believe I'm fully capable of running in the top 5, top 10 week in, week out, and I was kind of unsure of that going into the road course, especially after I didn't even qualify for Michigan, and I had a good performance there, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I really think I can run with these guys like Nathan Lyon, Jimmy Mullis, guys on the sim that are just at the top of the esport, basically. I know I can run with these guys. I know a lot of people probably don't even know who I am. A lot of people probably really don't even expect me to even be a factor, but I know who I can and who I can't run with, and I know I can be a big factor in a lot of these races. So I was really happy to rebound after a okay finish at the oval. I didn't really do that well there, but I was glad to rebound and show what I can really do against these guys.
And we have a break for the build coming up next week, so plenty of time to get adjusted to some of the new goodies that are coming. I know a lot of people, I think, are going to go road racing with that LMP2. And by the way, the new Corvette is also in there. That was news to our commentary team, so it may well be news to you as well. C8's coming in. But once we all break with all that, Richmond up next. First thoughts on what we could expect from the action track.
I love Richmond. I hope the league we can get some green flag racing, because it's a very fun track. A lot of attrition can happen there, but I love green flag racing at Richmond. It's one of the most fun tracks on the sim there, and I know guys like Jimmy Mullis for sure is going to be up there, one of the fastest drivers up there, and there's so many other talented drivers in the field that I'm going to have to deal with, but I love my chances at Richmond. I think it's one of my better tracks. I'm better there in the Xfinity and trucks. I don't know if I've ever broken through for a win in the Cup cars, but I think the time would be right to get another one here, maybe go 2 in a row. I feel really confident that I have the speed there at Richmond, so I'm pretty excited going into that week.
We'll keep our eyes peeled, but in the meantime, who do you need to thank for making tonight's victory possible?
I gotta thank Ryan Bauer and Top Place PC for jumping on the car. Finally got them a win, started in the back, had some good runs, had a little bit of bad luck, but we got it to the front. We got the win for Top Flight PCs. This Camaro was fast all day, so a shout out to them for hopping on the car, and also a shout out to Jeremy Miller for spotting me. He made a key call to keep me out there on those tires there late in the race when I was contemplating pitting, and he helped me with the restarts and all that, so a big shout out to Jeremy Miller as well.
Connor, on behalf of everybody at the ERL and Putting Esports, congratulations on your victory this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at Richmond in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you there.
Connor Horn, P1 tonight, winner at Darlington, victor in the Advanced Racing Development 165K. We turn our attention now to Breyer LaPrade, who is with Justin Prince.
Well, tonight's race, to put a mean metaphor almost on this, was like that one where someone's on fire trying to, or at least trying to run away from a constant fire that seems to be chasing them tonight. Breyer, tonight, you're able to get track position despite being involved in an early caution flag and survive said fires as they developed around and behind you. How are you feeling about the second?
Very excited about it. It was a wild race overall. Sucks that there were so many cautions and we were just pacing around, but I had fun just trying to get through everything. I think it was a wild race for me personally because I fell all the way back to about 33rd. Backed off because I thought they were about to wreck in the middle of 1 and 2 and fell all the way back, and was not fun trying to climb back up, but gotta do what you gotta do. Ended up climbing back up to second. Had a shot at Connor. I couldn't really do much. He was out there wheeling. He did good avoiding the wrecks tonight, so shout out to him for winning. He did ran a pretty good race, and yeah.
How difficult was it to try and keep your mind together after being involved, as you mentioned, shuffling back to the 30s early on in the race, where you got shuffled at one point actually all the way to the apron? Once that happened, what were you telling yourself as, in turn, you played the strategy card to get the track position back.
Yeah, sitting on the apron, I'm like, oh boy, this isn't gonna be fun. Just make sure I slowed down and kept the car in one piece, didn't merge in front of anybody. Then I just had to kind of get everything back together, focus on what I was doing. I was just trying to get through the field again. But yeah, we played strategy nice. There was a couple laps we had going green, and I pitted lap 15. I pitted early. That's what cost me a little bit of track position towards the beginning, and ended up staying out on the second or third yellow. But yeah, like I said, we had a couple green flag laps, so
Yep.
tires sort of evened out. I got back up there, and that's what gave me the track position again, and just played it right on strategy and taking tires at the right time.
Next race goes to the action track, Richmond Raceway. Your thoughts going there? I know that for your technical alliance mates, that's a big track for them.
Oh yeah, I would go ahead and say good win, Jimmy Mullis, but you never know what's going to happen. Maybe the internet drops for him or something. You know, something crazy could just happen. But I would probably say he's going to win. I think it's going to be a great race overall. Obviously, it's a short track. Might have some tempers here and there. Hopefully, I get some green flag runs in. I think it'd be a great race to watch. Say a lot of beating and banging, trying to get people out at the bottom groove, because that's the main line you want to run there on this tire. But yeah, I would say it's going to be a fun race overall, and pretty much good win Jimmy, because he's pretty nuts at that track.
Yeah, looked really good there in the Coke racing. Was in position at one point to try and win that before calamity ensued with some of the strategies in bumping and baiting. But anyone you want to thank in this bumping and baiting type of race tonight?
Yeah, of course, Burton Kligerman Esports and their partners, Valvoline, Rickmotech, Racing Simulators, Connecticut Realty Trust, JDR Graphics, and of course what was on the hood tonight, Ledford Billiard Supply. Check them out at ledfordbilliardsupply.com. And yeah.
Congratulations on the P2, Breyer. Get you some good points as well.
Thank you.
Barla Pride, P2.
While the Pride runner-up this evening and third tonight was Alec Martinez, who now's a podium at Darlington Raceway and in turn gets to chat with our Vicky Springer.
Yeah, down here with Alec Martinez, a third place finish here tonight. Started in the 7th spot. It was a crazy race, Alec. I mean, just explain to us what exactly that race was like from your seat in the house all race long, and just how difficult was it to try and avoid those accidents that were happening on the track, but also pass cars?
Well, yeah, it's hard to pass cars here no matter what, no matter what car you're in here at Darlington. It's just very hard track to pass, and then you know, when we can't pass, we obviously can't you know, we have to make more dumb moves to kind of like I guess pass people and get more, I guess, runs on people, and you know, try to be easy on it. But I don't know, just it was a wreck fest. That's probably what saved me a lot too, was just being a wreck fest. Keep a track position, and you know, just different tire strategies are really helped me get the third, and honestly, you know, the caution saved me a lot too. So honestly, just luck, I guess, and congrats to Connor on the win. I don't know how the race was from your standpoint, but for me in the car, it was wasn't that great. But you know, got to thank everybody here at Podium Esports for at least putting this on. And you know, no matter what track, you know, hopefully it doesn't disappoint. You know, hopefully we try to put the best show we can on for all the viewers out here, and you know. It's not going to be the greatest, but you know, I don't know what the viewers thought of it, but I think it was an interesting race to watch, probably.
Yeah, it was most definitely an interesting race, and that Nexus Toyota Camry yours does look really sporty tonight with that nice paint scheme you got going on there. But just explain to us what exactly this third place finish is going to do for the rest of your season here. Of course, you have a week off next week, so you get a little bit of a break, but what are you going to bring to the table these next couple of races here, and does this give you any momentum kind of into those races?
I would hope so. I'm not too excited about going to Richmond, because one of my least favorite tracks and probably one of my worst tracks. So I gotta get a little bit better at it. Hopefully run a little bit of laps, get used to it, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully the points I gained tonight probably on a few of the guys can move me up, and at least if I can get a decent finish at Richmond, keep the momentum going into Vegas, Dega, and roll, you know, for the rest of the season, hopefully. And you know, if we're lucky enough, the other guys that I'm battling in points have a worse day, and maybe try to make a run for the championship. If not, just try to, you know, finish good in the standings, and hopefully try to bring a top 5, top 3 points here.
Yeah, and you're definitely not one of the only drivers that is not looking forward to Richmond. But with this third place finish, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to, a kind of thank you for making this all possible?
Yeah, Anthony Alfredo, Chris Muhol, running the league, putting this up for all of us. For you guys doing the broadcast, and for all the viewers watching, hope you guys enjoyed the race today. For everybody watching back at my house, hopefully, and I wouldn't be on here without them supporting me doing sim racing. So can't thank my parents enough for that, and thank you guys for doing the broadcast. Them running, or Anthony and Chris running the administrating for the league. You Scully, and Ben Bafford and Brandon McKissick for spotting and helping us during the race, kind of making sure we didn't get more wrecks.
Yeah, and that was Alec Martinez bringing home the third spot here tonight at Darlington, or Lady in Black. And Pike, well, hand it back off to you.
All about Connor Horn at the end of the day, and now we get a breather here. Build week coming up next week. That would be the reason why we are off. Everybody going to ride around and all the new stuff, and I would imagine that we're probably going to see somebody throw down a hosted race of the LMP2 and or the C8R at the National Fairgrounds Speedway. That sounds like it could be a lot of fun, but a chance to breathe, to collect ourselves, a bit of a breathing space in the ERL schedule as well. Richmond, incidentally, marks the halfway point of the season. So once we're done with that, 6 down, 6 to go. So we're going to see some people start turning towards the title, and maybe start thinking about the title coming up once we turn our attention past the action track. But it's still Richmond. It's still one of the best driving tracks in iRacing for a reason, JP.
Yeah, expecting a lot of great action there. Still, as mentioned, a chance for attrition, but it's a track where you can get a few lanes going. You can run side by side. You can have some long runs if things calm down. I'm expecting it to be an exciting one at Richmond. And yes, there's the favorites of Jimmy Mullis and whatnot, but I think it's also the type of track, again, where you may see an underdog come away with a victory depending on strategy.
Certainly a possibility, I think. And as we turn our attention to Richmond, we can tell you that Anthony Burrows is 1 point ahead of Colton Salick over the course of the evening. So Colton's going to be over the moon about that, given the way his race went, that he is 1 point out of the lead. And then Nathan Lyon is 15 back. Alec Martinez is 33 points back, Ricky. So maybe we're starting to see championship contenders rise. Maybe we might need to be talking about Anthony and Colton and Nathan a little bit more in the second half of the year.
Yeah, I think so. But also, after a race like tonight, I think we're seeing a lot of people that would be in contention for the championship rise and fall, because this was not a good night for a lot of people out here to come out and get involved in one of these accidents. You were lucky if you got involved in one of them, let alone some people involved in multiple accidents here tonight. So looking forward to Richmond and having multiple grooves to run and it being a wider track. I think that the points will kind of settle out, but a crazy night for points tonight.
Many thanks to all of you for tuning in. Before we let you go, we will remind you of some of the other events coming up over the course of the week here. Friday night, the next event for us at Podium Esports, we turn our attention to round 1 of Series 5 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. The Cayman comes to the fore. We go racing GT4 events from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. 4 classes in action over the course of the evening. You will not want to miss all the action for the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern this Friday night, September 4th. Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, we're right back here at Darlington over on the Podium Esports Twitch channel. It's the For the Fans Grand National Series presented by Splash to Go Graphics. Also races at Darlington. A lot of fun in there. David Schildhouse, one of the newest partners of Twitch, along with Derek Justice, Blake McCandless and company, all going to be running in that. You'll want to tune in 10 p.m. Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch channel for that event before the Sunday night show. The GameWorks Racing League at 8 p.m. Eastern. Fire up a tablet, fire up a laptop, throw it on while you've got the Southern 500. The Cookout Southern 500, I might add, up on your screens. But we'll bring you all the action from Darlington Raceway at 8 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/Podium Esports. believe that we've got one Briar LaPrade that would be worth a good raid, given that he is on the podium yet again. So we'll see if we can get a Briar raid lined up as he gets set to go run Ascore's Patriot Briar. If you haven't found him on Twitch, you heard from him just a little bit ago. Capital P, capital B, if you're searching for him. But we'll see what he gets up to in JD Laird's adventures from the Circuit Jules Villeneuve in Montreal. This will be a lot of fun to go watch. We saw what happens with some of the nationwide cars back in the day there, and I have a feeling we could be in for a fun show there tonight as well. But for us at Podium Esports, that will do it for our coverage of the Advanced Racing Development 165K, the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeas. A tremendous thank you to everyone on both sides, from Podium Esports, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, for everybody up in race control, Anthony Alfredo, Chris Mulhall, Zach Johnson, and Joshua Mendoza for the Esports Racing League, and for my colleagues in the booth, Dustin Prince and Ricky Springer, and for our producer, Ryan Bauer, powered by Top Flight Computers, as was our winner, Connor Horn, by the way. I am James Punt, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching Podium's broadcast of the Esports Racing League presented by SimSeeds. We will see you on the PCA Sim Racing YouTube channel on Friday night for round 1 of Series 5 of the Porsche Club Sim Racing, Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.